James Cameron has done it again, my friends. Avatar Fire and Ash has completely crushed the box office, racking up over $1 billion in sales since its release in December 2025. Thanks to critics complaining about the 3-hour runtime, it has been given only a 66% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is frankly hilarious to me coming from people who binge their favorite TV shows, and those can easily add up to 12 hours. On the other hand, IMDb gave it a 7.4 out of 10, which I guess is marginally better. Personally, I enjoyed Avatar Fire and Ash, and I don't see why so many people are criticizing it. This third installment of our journey on Pandora abandoned the verdant forest and serene reefs for the harsher, unforgiving lands of the Mangkwan clan. Led by their vicious leader, Varang, played by Una Chaplin, with such a terrifying intensity that made Quaritch look almost soft in comparison. These Na'vi lived at the base of an active volcano and had completely rejected the balance of Awa. They preferred warfare and aggression over spiritual connection, which made them extremely dangerous adversaries. Naturally, Quaritch saw this as a prime opportunity and allied himself with Varang, which was an unholy partnership that spelled absolute disaster for everyone involved. Welcome back to Miss and Mischief, my friends, where your resident loremonger is back with my official Avatar 3 review. Now, before we get started, I would like to invite all of you to support us on Patreon or check out our new website with merch store. This is your official spoiler warning, so please proceed with caution. This movie picked up directly where The Way of Water left off, with the Sully family connected to the spirit tree to bid farewell to Neteyam. It opened with Neteyam and Loak flying their Ekrons together in the spirit realm. Upon landing, Neteyam asked his brother how he died, and when he heard the truth, he reassured Loak that it was not his fault. With his burden not even close to lifted, Loak disconnected from the tree to face the waking world. This scene sadly confirms the fan theory that the spirit realm is more or less a memory bank and not an actual afterlife. Now, back at the Sully camp, reality remained very grim. Jake and the children spent their time scavenging assault rifles and other heavy weaponry from the wreckage of the Sea Dragon that was sunk at the Three Brothers in the second movie. This deeply upset Tanawari and Ronal because they felt Jake was violating one of the 3 laws of Awa, which dictated that one shall not use metals from the ground, therefore strictly prohibiting the creation and use of firearms. This is a law that we've technically known since the first film, but we're only now seeing it enforced. Hanawari told Jake that he should instead return to his role as Torokmakto to lead them, but Jake refused, stating that when you ride the beast, you become the beast, which is arguably one of Jake's most self-aware lines in the entire franchise. During one of the scavenger dives, Loak and Soraya actually found Natiri's broken bow, the one that belonged to her father, Etukan, who passed away during the First Pandoran War. Clearly, this was meant to show us what both sides were fighting for. Despite Loak's initial hesitation, he and Soraya worked together to repair it in a beautiful bonding moment that continues the theme of healing through connection and reinforces their relationship as the emotional anchor that Loak desperately needed. While Loak found his purpose, Spider was once again caught at a crossroads due to his human biology because this kid simply cannot catch a break. While sleeping one night, he nearly suffocated when his exopack ran low on oxygen, creating chaos and panic as the Sully family struggled to locate his spare unit. As a solution, when the wind traders arrived at the reef, Jake and Natiri suggested maybe Spider tag along with them to return to High Camp. They felt he would be safer there with Norm and the other allied humans of the Resistance, which is Honestly, a terrible decision in general, but they were essentially stuck between Scylla and Charybdis. Monumental trauma compounded with impossible stakes is kind of the Sully family brand. Unfortunately, the journey to safety turned into a slaughter. The Mangkwan clan swarmed and ambushed the trading ship's convoy. The Ash people looted the ship and sadistically killed all of the survivors by severing their kurus. Jake, Natiri, and the children barely survived the initial assault, but were separated and lost contact with one another. Loak managed to shoot some Mangkwan warriors with a machine gun, but that only escalated things. During a head-on fight with Varang, an arrow pierced Natiri's left shoulder, causing her to fall off her Ikron to the forest floor below. While she was still greatly injured, she managed to pull herself back onto her Ikron, which brought her to high camp. Her mother, Moat, and the other scientists led by Norm treated her injuries in their lab. While the children fled from the Mangkwan people, Spider's exopack battery finally died completely, and he succumbed to Pandora's toxic air within minutes. To save Spider, Kiri fed him a seed from the spirit tree, then connected her own Kuru to the ground and commanded the roots to fix Spider's body so he could breathe again. Later, she admitted that since Awa was ignoring her, she decided she would just handle it herself. As a result, Spider's internal biology mutated into a mycelium-based structure that allowed his lungs to neutralize the toxins in the air. This fundamentally changed Spider into the closest thing to a Navi he could ever possibly become, and officially blurred the line between the two species. However, this miraculous ability did become known to the RDA. Since the mycelium organism could not be removed without risking Spider's life, Selfridge decided to abduct him and then study him. While taking refuge at High Camp, Spider and Kiri went into the forest together to gather fresh water. Soon after they shared their first kiss, Varang and the Ash people found them. Honestly, not going to talk about this scene because it's been hashed out way too much on social media and I'm exhausted by it. Kiri only escaped because Spider lured them away, but his noble act resulted in him being captured by Varang. After the RDA scientists ran tests on Spider's body, they concluded the same thing the Resistance had discovered. He was the key that could be reverse engineered to allow every human to breathe on Pandora, which immediately raised horrifying colonization implications. During Jake's search for the children, Quaritch and Wainfleet eventually crossed paths with him and arrested him, planning on returning him to Bridgehead City. However, when Quaritch learned from Jake that Spider lacked a backup mask and the Mangkwan were hostile, the three of them suddenly initiated a manhunt for the children, which is probably the closest Quaritch has ever come to acting like a real parent. Eventually, the Ash people managed to trap the group of children, and Varang showed great interest in the destructive capabilities of Loak's firearm. Quaritch, Wainfleet, and Jake soon arrived and observed the scene from behind the tree line. In order to free Spider, Quaritch agreed to work with Jake and removed his handcuffs, even giving him a knife. They emerged from hiding, and Quaritch demonstrated a machine gun to the Mangkwan, hoping to restrain Varang and demand his son be freed. When the opportunity struck, he grabbed Varang and forced the Ash people to put their weapons down. However, Varang surreptitiously formed a neural connection without him noticing and incapacitated Quaritch, who ironically fell in love with her as he taught her how to use an assault rifle. I guess nothing sparks romance like war crimes. While Varang and her people were distracted, Kiri actually used her Kuru to command a plant with projectile thorns to kill their guards, which enabled their escape. With this new alliance, a new RDA fleet, including Quaritch, Wainfleet, Varang, and the entire Mangkwan army, received clearance to track Jake and Natiri to the reef of the Metcaina clan. Jake was forced to surrender after Quaritch commanded his troops to set fire to parts of the village in a brutal callback to the destruction of Home Tree. Quaritch even called for Neytiri to surrender as well, but she answered by shooting an arrow at his feet, a message he received loud and clear. Jake was then taken to Bridgehead City to face execution by firing squad for betraying the human race, as if humanity hadn't been betraying Pandora since day one. Determined to save her mate, Neytiri disguised herself as a Mangkwan member and stole a special pager that allowed her to infiltrate Bridgehead unnoticed. She nearly killed Varang to obtain Jake's location, but Varang had Quaritch to help her gain the upper hand, so they ended up chasing her off. As she flew through the RDA compound, she set off multiple explosions using the explosive arrows Jake had previously offered her, weapons she initially refused to use because of AWA's laws. Humanity isn't completely corrupt in this movie. Dr. Ian Garvin, a marine biologist working for the RDA, actually stole a bulldozer and freed Jake, who was being held in this giant glass box. Meanwhile, Spider escaped his cell by unscrewing a panel using Quaritch's dog tags. As we know, the RDA couldn't kill Spider due to the research potential that he had, so he willingly acted as a human shield to protect Jake as they ran through the base and escaped with Neytiri. Safe for a moment, Jake, Neytiri, and Spider found themselves alone by a stream. Jake suggested the horrifying reality that they should kill Spider so the RDA couldn't colonize Pandora and destroy it the way they destroyed Earth. He took Spider to a secluded part of the forest and listened to his adopted son forgive him before realizing he could not kill the child that he and his wife had raised. I would argue this is probably one of the most painful moments of Jake's life. Back at the stream, Neytiri washed the red war paint off of her face, but saw it as blood on her hands. She realized she was going down Varang's dark path and losing her faith in her love for Awa. With this realization, Neytiri rushed to stop Jake and told Spider, "I see you," finally accepting him as one of her own and emotionally wrecking the entire audience. Jake finally reclaimed his title as Torok Makto and prepared the clans for war. Even the Tolkien Council listened to his warning of an incoming massacre, but they initially refused to act because it went against their morals. It was Loak, after going on his own little short journey, who brought Payakan into the circle along with the only survivor of the human attack on his clan, Tanakh. Fueled by his love for the ancestors, Loak defended Payakan and inspired the Tolkien to fight back against the prophet-based slaughter. He stood against the Tolkien Council with his friends and forced the Tolkien to confront the cost of their nonviolent complicity. After hearing Tanakh's story, the Tolkien matriarch reconsidered, and the council ultimately agreed to join the fight. Let me tell you, it was boss. By the end of the movie, Spider's Kuru had developed enough for him to ride an elu upon their return to the Metcaina clan. He was also able to connect to the spirit tree with his Navi family and finally meet the ancestors Kiri was always telling him about. The future of the franchise. James Cameron himself said that if this film makes enough money to pay for the production costs of the next movie, then we might be seeing a fourth installment sometime after 2027. It does appear as though the continuation of the Sully family saga is entirely dependent on the box office returns, so we will have to wait and see if the audience turnout is strong enough to secure our return to Pandora. That is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please consider checking out the Mischief Market for our latest merchandise, or join our membership plan on Patreon. This has been your Loremonger, and I will see you next time.